us, and particularly to Michelle Charlesworth, who is a climate activist and the founder of One Planet Abingdon, which she's going to be talking to you about, which is a phenomenal climate emergency centre, which I've visited and is very, very impressive. I wanted to pass on the apologies of Michelle Thomas, Henley's mayor, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but I wanted to thank Michelle because she's really solidly backing this project for us to get a climate emergency centre up and running in Henley. And I know that she's going to be wanting to watch this recording. So as I say, Michelle's going to do a presentation for the first 20 minutes, and then we're going to have a Q&A. I must apologise for the fact that you can't really see me very well. There's building work going on in my house and I'm hiding in my son's bedroom, so sorry about that. Okay, well, Michelle, over to you.
Thank you so much, Kate, for inviting me to share our story. And it is our story, it's not my story. I co-founded with some other lovely people, One Planet Abingdon Climate Emergency Centre, because I think that is probably the most important lesson that we've learned, is that collaboration is key and that we cannot do it alone. We have to work together. So I have created a PowerPoint, which I'm going to share with you now. Can you see that? Yes, great. Okay. So this is a climate emergency centre in Abingdon, which is run solely by volunteers. But before I share with you how we got to this place in terms of being able to open and have been running for a whole year, I do need to be open and transparent about who I am, because I am in your space. You've welcomed me here, and I do believe that it's really important that you know who I am. And I am a climate activist, and I have had my eyes opened since April 2019. Before that, I honestly believed that recycling was good enough. And it was an awakening. It was a little bit of an enlightening, I believe, that I experienced. And so I've been very active. And the work that I do in the Climate Emergency Centre is because I believe that contributing to my community is just as important as the activism that I do. So this is the most beautiful building right in the centre of Abingdon, and we are in the bowels. We're right in the bottom below this building. The One Planet Abingdon Climate Emergency Centre is there. It's the old Mousehole Cafe. It's quite a small space, and it's perfect insofar as its location. And as you can see, we can use the space under the arches as long as we ask for permission. So how did we get to this point? In April 2019, Abingdon Town Council declared a climate emergency, which was rightfully so. We all now know that there is a climate and ecological emergency, and that we should all be doing what we can. And the town council approached Abingdon Carbon Cutters. Some of you might know Abingdon Carbon Cutters. They are the green group in Abingdon of old, have a very good relationship with the town council, and the town council approached them and said, would you like the space in the bottom of the museum, because we'd like to be doing something to help with regard to the climate emergency. And they declined the offer because they didn't have the capacity. And so they approached me as one of the co-founders of Extinction Rebellion Abingdon. And I said that I didn't feel that if it was an XR space, it would be successful. So we agreed that we would do some ringing round other groups in Abingdon to see whether or not we had enough interest to maybe make it as a collaboration, as a group of green groups to maybe take this on as a climate emergency centre. And so that's what I did. I rang round and the response was amazing. And we had 7 different organisations, including Oxford Wood Recycling, Bioabundance, Added Ingredients, who are a local green deli, and others. And we did all our pre-meeting chats, and I then presented to the town council this idea of this collaboration whereby we would run with this idea of being One Planet Abingdon Climate Emergency Centre. Very important, we felt that the name included the words climate emergency, because it is an emergency and there is no space in Abingdon to have this conversation as to, you know, what's happening in our world right now. And so we did lose 1 or 2 groups who would have liked to have collaborated with us if it had been more of a community hub. But we stuck to our guns, and we've got the name Climate Emergency Centre in there, and it's been very good for us that we've got that name there, because people, as soon as you say that, they know that it's okay to talk about the climate emergency. And this is what we were hoping, is that it was a space where people know that's what we're talking about. Because I'm sure quite a few of us, I recognise quite a few in the audience tonight who are active. You know, people don't want to talk about this. It's hard. So yes, having it in the title, really important. So how did we go about it? It was all about the community, bringing the community together, creating a sense of resilience, this collaboration that I've been talking about, and of course communication. So communication with the town council regularly, creating this relationship where we can just pick up the phone and speak to the town council leads that are supporting us. And then of course our commitment. So this group of us, these individuals that are part of what I will now explain to you is the steering group. There's a commitment there that is expected, and it's spelt out. And so far we've been really, we've had a high rate of retention with these individuals who are part of the steering group. If they haven't been able to commit as much time perhaps at the beginning, they are still very much part in the background. So that's really fantastic for us. So why One Planet Abingdon? So we definitely believe that it is about everyone getting involved from the top down and the bottom up. So the town council, the businesses, and then of course the community. And as I was a trained One Planet Living community champion in my last paid role, it made sense for me, as I was being so active in this project, that we use the One Planet Living framework, because it made absolute sense. Because by using One Planet Living, this very simple, easily to understand framework that can be used to upscale or to keep it individual, was really, it's a really simple tool, very colourful, very bright. And we did a vote, and in the end, One Planet Abingdon Climate Emergency Centre was the name that we actually voted on that name before we decided on the One Planet Living framework, which for me is just serendipitous that it's all just worked out that way. So the first conversations started in May 2020. That very first phone call where I started phoning everyone was around May 2020, and it was in June that we agreed our purpose, which you can see there, is to provide a vibrant community place where people can come together. And the whole purpose of that coming together is about conservation, protection, and improvement of our environment in Abingdon for the public benefit of its residents and wider community. And then to also build community ties by working collaboratively with local groups, because that was the problem. You've got all these green groups everywhere in Abingdon doing their little thing, but nobody knows what each other are doing. And together we are so much more powerful. So we want to make sure that that was part of our purpose, to bring everyone together. And we are succeeding in that, albeit it's a challenge. And then, of course, to develop understanding and to create a sense of purpose to act. And that's the word that was the most important. We wanted to inspire people to actually do something. So when they come into the Climate Emergency Centre, they see what's going on and they ask the question, what can I do? How can I help? Or how can I change what I'm doing? So that's the purpose. The One Planet Living framework is a framework that was created by Bioregional, which is an environmental charity actually based in Oxford. It is a global framework and beautiful in terms of its colours, really simple in terms of its principles, health and happiness, equity and local community, all the way down through to zero carbon. And having these images, having the One Planet Living framework to inform us as to how we're working was really useful and cheap, because you know how much it costs your marketing materials, just working out how one is going to approach things. And with this framework ready to go, if I can use a Boris analogy, what does he say? Ready cooked or baked or ready to go. Shocking. Delete that from the recording. So yes, the One Planet Living framework has been a godsend. And I have now finally been able to offer a few training sessions on the One Planet Living framework to our volunteers and to the community at large. We advertised it and we had one or two that just came and attended the training, because the objective is One Planet Abingdon. So it's not just about the Climate Emergency Centre, it's about this filtering through to everything that happens in Abingdon, so that we are a town that is living as though we only have one planet. That's the big goal. But we are starting, obviously, the vehicle that we are using is One Planet Abingdon Climate Emergency Centre. So we had our launch in September, and it was heralded in by the town crier, and we had the mayor, and it was a very jolly affair, as you can see, well attended by the community. And since then, using the 10 principles, we've been putting on a whole range of events, from learning how to play chess, which you think, well, what's that got to do with the climate? And this is about community. This is about inclusion. And what we're finding is people who have, I don't want to say special needs, but potentially don't really like to go into big public spaces, they are finding our Climate Emergency Centre a very safe space to go to. And so board games, puzzles is something that we have. And, in time they feel comfortable and will start to have conversations. We have regular climate conversations where we have a talk in the centre and people come, and then it's a conversation where a subject is discussed. We have knitting, and once again learning all the skills of old. We have our lovely cafe, which is now a 5-star rated cafe. With tea and cake. We sell nothing in order to be accessible to everyone. Everything we do is for a donation. And we have a tree where people can write down thoughts, feelings. And this one says, delighted and warmed in my heart by your work here. And there's many messages like that. This photograph here is the 3 previous mayors of Abingdon loving what we're doing in One Planet. So we've got the support of the town council and the councillors, and there's talk now of some surgeries actually taking place there, which is wonderful. And not just the surgery of one of the councillors, they're talking about, you know, all of them being there, because that's also a good thing for them to be talking to one another in the space where the subject is the climate emergency, which is the most important item on the agenda on this planet right now. Let's face it. I know there's a lot going on, but the climate and ecological emergency is the most important work that has to be done. So this is, we've had a few, in the first year, we've had a few large events, and this was our Plot to Plate event, which was a collaboration with Abbey Buildings Trust, Abingdon partnerships, event partnerships, and ourselves. It was fortuitous insofar as a wedding had been cancelled, and so Abbey Buildings offered us free use of the space, and we had a Plot to Plate ending with a ceilidh in the evening, and we had 650 guests, and our budget was not more than £1,500. It was incredible. A lot of hard work, but really worth it. And then, of course, we have all our repair cafes, bike checks, making and mending. And what's really important for us is that this is a space for all ages and everybody. And that's what this slide is hoping to show. So we are putting the youth at the very center of everything we do. We're trying to engage with the young people. And here you can see we've got the Damascus group. Well, actually, this is the Damascus group. This is Larkmead School that came and did a Make a Difference campaign, and they had a whole travel assessment, traffic assessment to do, and then they did a presentation. This was the youth's clothes swap, which was just teenagers of Abingdon putting their hand up and saying, yes, I want to be a part of that. And here we've got Abingdon and Whitney College, the filming course. They came and did some filming, and they've done some stills for us and so on. So really exciting, the work that's going on with the young people. We've got an eco library, and we've also got some development work going on around the refugees that we now know are in Abingdon and the surrounding villages, and conversations have begun. And this is looking at the principle of community. They are now in our community. It's not about us teaching them how to recycle. It's about us welcoming them into our space and saying, how can we help you to feel part of this community? We've got so much we can learn from them. So really excited about that. I mentioned our 5-star rating, and we've been doing training for our volunteers. We've got the most amazing social media campaign and website, and a few key numbers. For the first year, we've had 2,448 visitors coming into the centre, 2,448, and that does not include the 650 that came to the Plot to Plate, because that was in the Abbey building, so I've kept that number separate. We're a steering group of, we can have up to 15. We are currently 13. We're trying to get the youth engaged to be part of that steering group as well. However, currently nobody at the moment. We did have in the start, but they've all gone off to uni and we're not able to continue. The town council gave it to us initially as a free use for a year. That has now been extended for a further 6 months with a view to permanence. That is what the plan is. Unless something terrible happens, that Mousehole Cafe is now One Planet Abingdon Climate Emergency Centre. And we are very excited that it will be something that we can then really plan, because with funding, just having a year is really difficult. And I can tell you, we've done this with not much money at all. We've hardly spent a penny, to be honest. All our cakes are made by our amazing volunteer bakers. We try and use fair trade. Vegan is always an option, gluten-free. And yeah, it's literally being run by the people of Abingdon for the people of Abingdon. So I think I'm going to stop. I don't know whether that was 20 minutes, Kate, but it feels like I've come to the end of what I had in my mind to share.
That was perfect. Thank you very much, Michelle. It's just incredible what you've been doing over in Abingdon, you and all of the other people in the team. And it makes me think that we've got a lot of work to do. And I have to say as well, it was really great to see all those photographs, because we can have these dry PowerPoint presentations with lots of bullet points on, but the photographs really, I think, bring the work that you're doing alive. So thank you very much for that. Now, I know that welcome to the other people who've joined since Michelle started her presentation. Now, I know that Mike Barry and Sarah Miller both have to leave soon, so I just wonder if I could come to one or either of you with any questions, and then I'll open it up to the rest of the floor.
Okay, thank you. It's Mike. And Michelle, thank you so much. I'm Mike, 30 years living in Henley, of which 19 years were working at M&S leading sustainability plan A, because there's no plan B for the One Planet we've got. You were brilliant, and I can't thank you enough for your inspiring leadership, not just on this call, but sort of more broadly. So my specific question has got to be about the role of business. You mentioned it as part of the work that you're doing. Have you worked with businesses that are based in Abingdon? And have you worked with so many people who work in businesses outside Abingdon but come home there, call it their home, but their place of work is elsewhere? So have you brought them into the equation? Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for those kind words, and thank you for all the work that you do. I remember we did some work together on the Sea Bill. With regard to businesses, what we actually are doing is we are having an eco business fair in May next year. We've received some funding and we are working on that. So that will be the first big business event, and that is primarily going to be focused on energy, and we will be engaging with the energy providers in the area, all the green renewable organizations that are here and slightly further afield. We've got the support from Southern Vale. Their two economic development officers are supporting us with this collaboration. So for the first year, our focus was on the community, the focus was on the volunteers, and the businesses were not a priority for next year, for May. That is one of our big events. So we'll be engaging with them then. However, when we are in the centre and people come in, they work for all sorts of organizations, and they do ask about One Planet Living, and they don't know about One Planet Living. And so that conversation begins, and I can marry them up with bioregional, who are obviously available to support if any organizations were interested in taking on the One Planet Living framework. Because in my previous role, I was paid to engage with businesses. However, it was third sector, and bioregional did the large organizations via green tech and so on. So yes, we're working together, and we're trying to ensure everyone is involved.
Michelle, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the question.
Thanks, Mike. Sarah, do you want to come in now?
Okay. Hi, can you hear? Oh, hang on.
Sarah, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh, great. I'm here. Yeah. Michelle, thanks for that. That was interesting. Really interesting. A few questions, and I might have missed it because I had to nip out. But where does the funding? Where does it come from? How are you able to run this? And my other question was, you mentioned earlier that you lost some of the groups. Some of the groups didn't want to come on board with this. What was the reason for that? And my third question is, how heavily are the Extinction Rebellion involved in this? You said that at the beginning that you're very honest. You said is this because I personally I'm not, that doesn't sit well with me, but each their own. So yes, three questions there. Sorry.
Thanks, Sarah. No problem. I can answer those. So funding wise, we were given £500 from Abingdon Carbon Cutters to help us to buy our very first flags and very first posters for the launch event.
Right.
The premises we receive absolutely free. The town council doesn't ask us to pay for anything, not even the energy. It's a cafe that has all the equipment that we might need: tables, chairs, cups, coffee machine, fridges, deep freeze, microwave. We've got all of that use for free. The toilets are cleaned by the town council, so even the cleaning is done by them. It's an incredible gift.
Yeah.
However, rightfully so, because like I said, everyone has to get involved. And if that's what the town council can do, is provide us with the space so that we don't have the pressure of worrying about rent, that's amazing. So we are very, very, very appreciative of that. We have since done some fundraising for specific projects, and we did manage to get some money from the Climate Action Fund in Southern Vale, which is allowing us to look at a few fairly large projects, one of which will be for the young people. And then, of course, like I said, we sell nothing, but people are very generous. For a piece of cake and a cup of tea, they will give knowing it's going for something good. And those that don't have, if they've only got 5p, that's absolutely fine. And yeah, we're making enough for the immediate. I can tell you, Newbury Building Society has given us a chunk of money to help us acquire a beautiful pink, all singing, all dancing gazebo. So we're very excited about that. Haven't used it yet. So why did we lose some people in the beginning? Well, what actually happened was it was only one group, and it was because of the word climate emergency. They didn't want that word in. And what actually happened was one of the individuals is now still supporting us, but in her personal capacity. Does that make any sense? So yeah. Even though we didn't have the organization, we've still got the person we wanted. And then in terms of Extinction Rebellion Abingdon, I'm an Extinction Rebellion co-founder. I was chair for the first year. I've been hugely involved, as you know, you can hear. So in addition to myself, there are, I don't want to lie, I would say at least 4 other members on our steering group. And then we've got volunteers who are in XR, as well as in Carbon Cutters, as well as in Green Gym, as well as in, because that's what happens, isn't it? We wear many hats. But in terms of XR, like national or anything, no. It's very low key. There isn't activism happening in the CEC. In the CEC, what we are trying to do is to create a space where people feel like they can ask the question and we can have an adult conversation. There is no ramming anything down anyone's throat. If we're very careful with how we have these conversations, because we don't want to trigger anyone to feel really depressed about the situation. We want it to be led by them. And so we have all these events that we are trying to attract people outside of the green bubble. So with a toy swap, you're going to get families coming who aren't necessarily in the green bubble. You'll get a lot that are in the green bubble, but you will also get others who aren't. And so what we're trying to do is to show them there is an alternative to going to buy new. And so we're doing it subliminally, and we're doing it really gently and carefully. And I'll be honest with you, the atmosphere in there is one of, it's a very peaceful and calm atmosphere, where people can feel that there's love there. That's why we're doing this. This is about love for our community, love for our planet. And it's a filling of the bucket. It's for us to come together as a community, teaching and sharing skills and things and knowledge, so that when it gets tough, we're going to know how to respond, because and who's who knows these things. So it's slowly gaining momentum. Like I said, you could actually see on we've got a report, our annual report out, and you can see how our numbers are going up in terms of social media interaction, where more and more people are interested to see what we're doing. Yeah, I think I've answered.
You have. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm mindful that we've got a number of questions in the chat, but before I come on to those, is there anybody who's got a burning question who wants to come in now? Donna, are you putting your hand up?
Yeah, just because just a couple of issues. Like, we are overrun with coffee shops in Henley, and just so if this lady's not aware, we are overrun with coffee shops. We have a number of green shops in Henley, like we have the in Duke Street, is it Four State? I can't remember the thing. And then we have the Planet Organic, which is going to be opening up, and there's a health shop anyway. But I'm just concerned it's be seen as another coffee shop, and also, like, the premises, where would you expect the council to provide you with a space that's big enough? Because I really don't think we have anything we could give you, like, because the day centre's occupied, the King's Arm Barn is used by a number of other I don't really know if there's anything we can give you for free. Donna, I don't, but Michelle might have more better. I'm just putting it out there.
Sorry, Michelle, could I just jump in there? There are some real challenges in Henley with the premises. Absolutely, Donna, I hear totally what you're saying, and we are exploring certain possibilities at the moment in relation to perhaps a transition period for 1 or even 2 years, where we have just temporary premises or a pop-up. I would say, though, that it would be really helpful during this call if we could direct the questions towards the Abingdon experience, because I think there's all sorts of challenges and difficulties that we're going to encounter with getting this set up in Henley, inevitably. And I think we need to take those within the discussion for the Henley Centre. But what I want to do today is really draw on the, possibly the challenges that Michelle and her team have had in setting up the Abingdon Centre, and think about how the Abingdon Centre is benefiting the community. So perhaps if Donna, if you don't mind, could I perhaps just slightly twist that a little bit and just come to Michelle and ask what the challenges have been in setting up the Abingdon Centre, and whatever else you want to add, Michelle.
Thank you. I would like to actually say, with regard to Donna's question, our centre, it sounds big, but inside it's really small. It's only got space for 8 little round tables. However, so that's our space, 8 tables and the counter. But next to it, there's a room that we can hire from the museum for free. So that gives us more space, which we have to book, and that's fine. And then if we want to do something bigger, like the teenage clothes swap, we look to the town council, who have lots of other spaces, like the Royce room, and they've been allowing us to use that either for a reduced rate or for free. For the young people, they did it for free because they were supporting the young people. So, it's about trying to overcome any problems that we have, you know, thinking out of the box, using everything that we have, because this is so important. It's so important by having a space, and let me say, it's a space we could use 6 days a week. However, currently we only have enough volunteers for 3 days. But if somebody said, oh, I'd like to organize an event on the Sunday, because we do Thursday, Fridays and Saturdays, I could do something on a Sunday, then we go and we do it on that Sunday. And we make sure that we have the staff to man it. It's not a cafe.
Right.
When I say that we have tea and cake, that is we see it as somebody coming into our sitting room and we are offering them a piece of cake and a cup of tea. However, that is not why we're there. We are there for a conversation, for a welcoming, and the refreshment is for free, ideally, for a donation. So before we opened, we went to all the coffee shops and we told them, we are not a coffee shop. We are not selling anything. We don't have latte. What we have is a black coffee filter, or we've got a range of teas that people have donated to us. We get lots of stuff from Leftover Food Bank, lots of donations. The local little shops in the area give us their best before stuff. And we've got baskets underneath the table that says, help yourself. And, you know, the first time we did that, we thought, oh, God, we're going to have this stuff here for a month. It was days and it was all gone. So it's a need. And that's the thing. This is a place for everyone. We've got the well-heeled, highly educated scientists that work at Cullum coming in with their families on the weekend. And we've got the people who are on benefits. And then we've got people who don't have anything. And we are catering for all of them. This is what we're trying to do. But there is a code of conduct. I must say that we have had one incident where mental health problems, and we did have to give a warning. So we've had to talk about our health and safety and safeguarding. And in fact, we've even had a disclosure of stalking. This lady was in tears. So, you know, the fact in a year that these various people of Abingdon feel they can come in there and find community.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
Incredible.
I'm going to move us on because I can see Stefan putting his hand up, and also Catherine as well. And we've got lots of questions in the chat, so and Anne as well. So I'm going to come to Stefan first. And I know you did ask in the chat, what have you achieved in the year? I think Michelle has answered that to some extent, Stefan. I don't know how much of that you heard. I'm not sure when you joined us, but yeah, over to you, Stefan.
It was really that. I mean, anything that gets community groups together is absolutely fantastic. So that's good. So that's an achievement in itself. But yes, I was just thinking whether you feel, I mean, getting groups together and getting people to talk, etc., and either have low-level activism or high-level activism on issues for the planet is good. But do you feel as though you have achieved? Or is it just sort of in the education sense? Well, we've educated loads of people to actually do various things. I mean, what has changed? What has happened? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Stefan. So we've had 115 eco events, ranging from apple pressing to mood music, to bike checks, to plant swaps, to eco crafting for kids. Learn how to make salads from scratch. We are constantly asked via the email, when is your next clothes swap? I mean, so there's definitely a shift. People are liking what we're doing. We've got a collaboration with Abbey Buildings whereby we do the Eventbrite. They book on to go on a free tour to understand the history of Abingdon, because when you understand where you live, you're going to respect it more. So every time we've done this event, it's been sold out. It's free. And then after the walk, you know, the tour, they come back to the CEC and have tea and cake, and then they can talk about what they've learned. So, you know, it's just it's growing. And the thing is, you know, volunteers, we've got about 45 active volunteers, but on my list, I've got 80 plus. So it's like, how do I get those 40 that are silently in the wings? How do I get them involved? They've said they'd like to help. They've filled in the form, but then the communication has stopped. So something's changed. And that bit of work is work we haven't had capacity for. It was one of my tasks to phone them all and have a chat, but I've not done it yet. But yes, we've achieved. Definitely. And what's amazing is, like I said, you know, we really haven't had to spend a lot of money because everything we're doing is about stuff we already have, and the donation of the cakes. So yeah, I mean, the town council has made it possible by giving it to us for free. If we didn't have it for free, we would have been struggling to make ends meet, as it were. Apparently it's 7k is what it's worth for the year. In terms of the rent, so, and I don't know what the energy is. So yeah, it's a real gift that we are so grateful for. Yeah, don't know if I answered that question.
Thank you, Stefan. I'll come on to Catherine, please.
Good,
Lovely. Thank you very much, Michelle, for that. And I think we're absolutely.
Catherine, I'm sorry, your sound is very distorted. Could you? I don't know if it's just me, but could you perhaps just talk in a slightly softer voice, because it's very distorted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, carry on.
Is that better? Okay, we're very jealous of your free basement, I think, and undercover arches and location. And I think Donna was quite worried that we couldn't match that. But yes, we probably could think around it a little bit more. We are spread out. We are already doing a lot of those things, but it's all over Henley. For example, you could have an eco library in our library. The Quakers already support Ukrainians and giving lessons and things like that. So it is dotted around. To have these things in one place, yes, would be absolutely superb. If we could achieve that, that would be wonderful, and I would support that too. I've got 3 questions, really. Can you hear me still?
Yes,
Is that
Catherine.
Okay. You said that your title was very successful. What advice do you give us at Henley? Because I find the title Henley Sustainability Hub is quite a problematic title. It doesn't have anything with planet, climate, eco in it. And you've said how good that was to get your message across and how powerful it was in the title. That's my first question. My second one is, you have conservation, protection and improvement. Could you please expand on that? Tell me what you have done, because this is very dear to my heart, as many other people on this Zoom will know. And the third one is, are you going to bring your presence to the Henley Great Big Greener Week? Maybe have a pitch and show us a little bit to ourselves and other volunteers and the town council of what you can do and what you are doing.
Thank you, Catherine. If I could just quickly jump in here, I should make it clear to everybody that the title Henley Sustainability Hub is simply a working title at the moment. We haven't yet formed our steering committee. And I would like to say that if you are interested in getting actively involved in setting up the project and being on the steering committee, do contact Greener Henley or me directly. So that is a working title. There's every possibility, Catherine, that title might change, and it's a very interesting point you brought up about the planet. And Michelle, could I ask you to answer those questions as briefly as possible, please, because we've got lots more questions. Thank you.
I'm gonna start with the last one. Is our Kay presenting, Kate, for the Big Green Week?
She is, exactly. We're having a public consultation on the Henley Sustainability Hub working title on Tuesday the 27th of September, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. and we're putting a call out to Henley residents to come and join that public consultation. And Kay will be joining us remotely to give a brief presentation about One Planet Abingdon.
Great. So that's fab. I know she's confirmed that with you. In terms of the name, it's my opinion that it's been so successful. Some people have said that it was confusing with Abingdon Carbon Cutters and then the CEC because of the letters. However, I think that it was only because it was new. But I think in time, and because when people come down into the CEC for the first time, because you ask them, is this your first time? And most of the time they say yes, because this is something we've realized is that, we're on social media, but if you're not involved in anything green, you won't even know. So a lot of people come down the stairs, they don't actually know what they're coming down to. They've just seen the sign that says tea and coffee downstairs and toilets. And so we can say it's One Planet Abingdon Climate Emergency Centre, and it's clear. And you have a conversation about that because you mentioning the word climate and emergency. So, and that's why we thought it was so important to have in the title. I hope that's answered that question, Catherine. With regard to conservation, protection and improvement, we've got working groups that work on all sorts of things, and the plot to plate was probably the biggest event that we had, where we had lots of stalls all about how to preserve, how to grow your own, how to have good soil, so yes, that was the start. But we have obviously smaller events happening all the time, like plant swaps and the apple pressing and the whatever. So it's all about really teaching people about things they don't know about, because there's this gap in knowledge because the nature has been ignored, in my opinion.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm going to come to you, Anne, in one moment. I'm just going to, if you don't mind, jump in with, I think, a very important question for the Henley project, particularly bearing in mind what Donna said about the physical premises, about the difficulty of finding a town centre premises. So we are toying with the idea. When I say we, this is me and kind of Patrick Fleming and Diana, because there's not very many people involved at the moment, but this is something the steering committee are going to have to think about. We are toying with the idea of having just a pop-up presence for the first year or two. We would really like to understand how important you think it is, Michelle, to have a permanent physical space rather than just to operate on an ad hoc basis as a pop-up.
I think having that permanent space, never mind engaging with everyone else, just the steering group and the volunteers, having that space has really created an energy that you can feel, because we can come together. And we do. It's fascinating, you have a rota and you've got your volunteers on the rota, and then throughout the course of the day, other volunteers will actually pop in because this is now their community, and so we are constantly supporting one another and brainstorming ad hoc as we work. So I think having a presence there is invaluable. And then what we can do is, when things are happening in the town centre, we can literally go up those stairs with our leaflets and engage with the public, which we do. When there's excellence markets and when there's the Christmas market and when there's whatever going on outside, if there's a lot of people, because we're always two people on duty, one person can go outside and start the conversations outside. So you wouldn't have that if you weren't there, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I think it is a commitment. It is a commitment, because you do need a rota to make sure that if you're saying to the public you are open 3 days a week, then you open 3 days a week, and that takes a commitment, and you need volunteers for that. And the volunteer management is about making sure that their onboarding experience is one where you're making sure you understand on what level are they, because there's this assumption they know all about the climate emergency when they don't. They just have come because they've been compelled to act, because they've been inspired. So we've got to work with our volunteers. And like I said, I've only just now done training on the One Planet Living framework, because if I'd done that in the start, it would have gone totally over their head, most of them. This is a journey. Everyone's on a journey, and you need somebody to be supporting your volunteers in this way, getting them on board, making sure they know what's expected, and being able to feel confident to have a conversation, because initially not everyone is. So they might be happy to make the tea and the coffee, and then the second person on shift is the one having those conversations, and they are learning. So, you know, you've asked what we've achieved. Well, we've got 45 people who now for a year have been talking about the climate in this, you know, amazing space where the magic really is happening. And that is why people are coming on board, because they can feel that it's growing. There's a sense of community. There's a sense of, this is something positive for us. I don't know if I've gone off piste again. Sorry.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. I can get the sense, this sort of sense of, you know, when you have a physical premises, the growth is happening sort of on a more continuous basis, and it's sort of mushrooming out gradually all the time. I can see that. Anne, let's come to you.
Oh, thanks, Kate. Michelle, this is really helpful, and it's lovely to hear how successful you're being. I mean, the commitment you've got is tremendous, and I'm actually hoping, a bit like Caroline did, to come along and you know, spend a day volunteering just to find out how you do it and feel about it. So my question was to do with this relationship with bioregional and One Planet. I'm really to understand, what are the advantages of doing something with them? What are they bringing to it? For instance, did they help you setting it up, the legal side of it, you know, the health and safety procedures you were talking about? You get that sort of help from them. And what, if any, disadvantages are there? Do they make any limitations, for instance, on what you might do? And I noticed that Patrick had put a question in the chat, and if Patrick doesn't mind, just add to that, added that question as well, which is whether you can still engage with other organisations. It's not a limiting factor.
Yeah, no, it's very easy. There's no, you know, we decided, they didn't ask us to, we decided to take on the One Planet Living framework. We have access to all the resources that anyone can get online for free. If you sign up to creating an action plan where you want it to be peer reviewed and so on, that's a different path which businesses would follow. But this is us. We're just a small climate emergency centre, and so we can get access by just signing up, literally, to their newsletter and so on, and get access to the free resources. Plus, I've been trained, so I know how to use those resources effectively. So for individuals, that then can be upscaled to a family, and that can then be upscaled maybe to a brownies group. That's the thinking of the One Planet Living framework. So it's like, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Here's something that is ready to go. So there's no limitations whatsoever. Another advantage of working with bioregional, other than all those resources that are there, is they are doing funding bids, collaborative funding bids with us. We currently are spending some of that first funding bid that they managed to get for us from the lottery. And in my last meeting, Hannah said that you know, we're going to be looking at another one shortly. So purely trying to find some funding for a person to coordinate, so not salary, but almost like a consultant kind of fee to coordinate the place, because it takes a lot of work. It really does. And it's fine to do it for free for a year, but you know, if you want to have longevity, if you want people not to burn out, then you need to think about, oh, okay, because we did have some meetings with the Whitney. I can't remember what they're called now.
They're going to be, yeah, they're going to have a One Planet emergency centre.
Yeah, so there is another similar organisation in Oxfordshire who have a 1.5 paid worker doing the coordination. So we know it's possible. And I think their funding came from their town council, whereas our town council's rather given us the premises. So, you know, we're looking elsewhere for funding towards staffing as such.
Michelle,
but you know, yeah,
I'm sorry to cut you off there. I'm mindful that we've got only a few more minutes left, and we've had some really great questions, but we haven't really covered any of the questions in the chat. So I'm going to put 2 questions to you just as the final ones, which were sort of mishmash of some of the questions in the chat. The first one that was actually sent as a direct message to me was in relation to education. This question is from Alison, who's a teacher. How have young people, especially school children, been involved with Abingdon? Now, you've talked about clothes swaps, but she says, are they helping or do they come to learn, or both? So that's the first one. And then there's a number of questions about volunteers. Sarah acknowledges that, well, she says it would be helpful to know how much of a time commitment from volunteers there has been. It sounds like a serious amount of time, and is this possible for people to support who are in full-time employment? And then Julia says, did you start with a large bank of volunteers or just a few? So it would be good to get a sense of, you know, how many volunteers, what the time commitment has been, and so on.
So the school question, yes, so we've got the youth programme, which is as I've described, but in addition to that, which I forgot to mention, was we also go out to the schools, and we've been going out to, I don't want to lie, at least 7 schools in this first year, where we've been engaging with the geography class, we've been engaging with the eco warriors that they have at school, we've been engaging with the 6th formers who've been doing D&E, and we've been setting them tasks on Zoom, helping them to do a little project around anything eco. So the work we've been doing with the schools has been fantastic, and that is one of the reasons why we got funding from the town council in this last round, from Southern Vale rather. So and just in this week, loads of emails from schools coming in to say, yes, let's get cracking again. And you know, it ranges from Didcot girls to St Catherine's, St Helen and St Catherine's, to Larkmead. So, you know, wonderful. With regard to the volunteers' time commitment, we do have full-time people who work full-time, and they help on the weekend. We have volunteers who only help us virtually. For example, the social media team, they just help us virtually, and then we meet them for meetings if needs be in person, and they might come in and do a shift in the CEC if they want to, but their job is mostly virtual. We've got another volunteer who writes our copy for our regular piece in the Herald. That's a virtual role. So, you know, we make the rules, you know, because everyone wants to help. So how can you help? You've only got 4 hours on a weekend. Fantastic. You can do the morning or the afternoon shift, or you can come and help at an event. So it is literally, when I say 45 volunteers superbly active, I would reckon they spend at least a day a month in terms of their activity. But most people are committing lots of shifts, which is incredible. And it's because they want to, they think it's important. So yeah. Did I answer those?
You did answer. Thank you very much. We haven't quite had time to cover off all the questions in the chat. I'll see if I can chase some of those up, but I do know you're very busy. So Well, look, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much to everybody who came and for all of your questions. I would just like to reiterate that if you are interested in joining this project, if you're interested in joining the steering committee, do get in touch with Greener Henley or contact me. You've got my email address. And we've got a lot of work to do. So thank you very much, everybody. And I'll close the meeting now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.